Welcome everybody to our final BCE of the year. It's good to see everybody. Let Robert in here. Um, we're still going to sort of use this as a celebration of a year we've been focusing on trust. Um, and yeah, so it's being transcribed. All right, just looking at all these faces. All right, people are still coming in. That's good. So even if this is your first time, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, just know that you're more than welcome. We've been focusing a lot on different perspectives on trust across the year, and we're going to sort of conclude the year with a final conversation about trust. And then towards the end of the session, Karen will share a screen where you can find any of the recordings from this year. And we also will talk a little bit about our plans for next year. Without further ado, I'm just going to dive into our slides here and get us started. And so we used kind of the river as a metaphor in this last month. And looking about our willingness to trust life, trust the sea, trust the current, etc. And what I want to focus on for tonight is that when we feel, my observation is when I or others feel congruent or safe or trusting, it's because they feel like they and what is are aligned. When we don't trust, it's often because what is and us don't quite mesh. So we don't feel safe, or we don't feel heard, or we don't feel respected, or we don't feel confident. And so we've played a lot in different ways across the year around trusting ourselves as the starting point. And so I want to just guide us in just a brief practice to kind of help us begin to pay attention to our willingness to be with what is. And there's a lot of what isness in this world right now that are sometimes hard to be with and hard to trust even. And I want to sort of make the case today that that paradoxically, in a way, the one way we can increase our sense of trust, maybe not in others always, but certainly in ourselves, is the more willing we are to be present to what is, as opposed to we wish what is, or what once was, or what we'd like to be, but what actually is. As a way to actually be, that allows us to then be more present and actually be more capable of being with what's happening. So I want to just guide us in a brief practice in a minute, but sort of start us with a little beautiful photo and quote here. And so I want to just use this as a prelude to our meditation practice and invite you through the practice to see if you can allow your senses to grow, to allow you to meet whatever's emerging in the practice, and giving you this sense of deepening your presence to what is for you. So if I'd just like to invite you just to close your eyes. We usually do this for about 5 or 6 minutes. We're going to use a sort of an abbreviated version of our full circle model. Um, and just invite you just to, like I said, relax, settle your feet into the ground. Notice your breathing. And if, what I'd like you to invite is you're aware of your breathing. Is anything in your life that you're aware of right now where you have a bit of a struggle with what is? Any place in your life or your practice where something about what is not sinking in or not present to you, or it's hard to hold on to, or you wish it were different. This it could be something really small, it could be something really big. And where I'd like you to begin with that is just to accept it's okay not to be okay with what is. Because to be okay with what is doesn't mean we have to agree with what is, like what is, are willing to accept or tolerate what is. It's more that when we can start with what we believe to be true about what is, the easier we have a grounding for trust. And so I'd like you to do is just to bring into your mind's eye whatever has come up for you, big or small. And I'd like you just to really focus on your out breath, your exhale. And just let it be okay that what is what is. It can be no else. And as you're paying extra attention to your exhale, see if you can release or let go of anything that you're still holding onto about what you wish what is was instead. And as you do so, just see if you can drop further into your breath and notice what it would be like to breathe with what is. What if you could just let it be? Not because you may not want to change it or do something about it, but for in this moment in time, could you let it just be as opposed to caught up in all the things it's not? Just begin to see as you breathe with this, what comes up for you that might be shedding some new light about your relationship to what is and your relationship to trust. And while it might seem that this is a passive thing to accept what is, again, it's not just meaning accepting it and not doing anything. It just means we're going to be present to the truth of it for right now, which is actually then the ground that we can stand on if we choose to do something else. If we don't know how to breathe with what is, we tend to often under or overreact in ways that may not serve us. But for now, we're just going to breathe with what we notice what is. And, and from that place, as you begin to develop a different relationship perhaps to what is, focus now on your in-breath. See if somehow your in-breath is different now because you're not fighting reality. See if anything new comes to you now. Maybe that before If fighting it felt like a duty or an obligation, or maybe it was heaviness. Maybe it was distracting you from other things which are more important in your life. To see what comes when you start to breathe in whatever now is possible if you were more present to what is. And then lastly, see as you now incorporate all of this, if there's a new sense of flow for you, maybe some new awareness you didn't have before, because now it's breathing through you. Maybe you see it differently. Maybe you feel more relaxed. Maybe you feel more convicted, whatever it is that's for you. It allows you to have a deeper relationship to what is in whatever situation you brought to mind. Let's just hold this for another minute and just feel yourself breathing through a deeper presence with what is. And when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to come back to the room and just take a minute of quiet. And if you want to take some notes for yourself of anything that emerged, please do. And in a minute, we're going to give you an opportunity to talk with a couple of your peers in small groups. Um, and that's what we just did. And here's the three questions that we have for you. What stands out to you today about what is? And then one of the things we focus more and more on our work, what is this saying to you? What is it asking of you? And what does the truth of it sound like? Again, adapt these questions in any way that works for you. Karen will cut and paste them and put them in the chat box. You have them available to you. Um, but it's just when you're ready in a minute, we'll give them a minute, Karen, just to kind of take notes for themselves. Um, and we'll give you 30 minutes and invite you to just share to see what comes up for each of you around these three questions or whatever else you choose to ask yourselves. Hey, Karen, so can you open up the rooms for folks?
I sure can. A few of you have four, but most of you have three in your rooms. And off you go.
All right. I look forward to hearing from you when you get back. All right, we're should we let Teresa back in so she can listen in on this part. Here we go.
Absolutely.
All right, so welcome back. Um, most people are still smiling. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Hey, Laura, welcome in. Um, just want to give you a little bit of time to just check in and see if there's anything that you would like to share about your experience for yourself or what you observed in your group that feels important to you about trusting what is and or trusting yourself with what is. Hmm. Veronica.
Thank you. Mine was, I'm not sure if this is about trust, but it was in looking at truly what is from a perspective. I was looking at what is from a negative perspective, from what I was lacking.
Okay.
But then thinking about it and sinking into it, I shifted my perspective on realizing that I was focusing on what I was lacking rather than what I
Hmm.
already have. And so my perspective shifted on the positive attributes of what is rather than this small little mini negative point of what is. And so that I realized, oh, wow, okay, I just have to remember when I'm focusing on what is that's a negative perspective, I need to think about well, actually, what really is and focus on that.
Yeah.
So it was just a renewed perspective.
Yeah. And even in that, you could also leave space for what you don't like about it, but not have that be the totality of your experience. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Marion.
I it it was clear in our room that we're all in transition.
Mm,
We're all in transition, and there are various kinds and manifest in different ways, and we feel our way into them and react in different ways. And have things to look forward to and challenges in those transitions.
hmm.
Yeah. Nobody gets off scot-free.
No.
They're happening all the time.
Mm. Well, and what comes up for me when I hear you, Marion, too, is that when we think about what is, what is not a monolith. Goes back to Veronica, your story as well, right? As I too am in a big transition. And so every day, what is feels a little bit different. And I have different opinions about what is and different levels of comfort with what is. And some I move towards and some, I'm not so sure. And so it's in this sort of dance we have with what is. But I find just when I don't spend extra energy fighting what is, I have much more to spend in the things that matter to me. Yeah. So like holding a grudge is basically like throwing away half your energy. That's not available for what you actually want to be doing. Hmm. Anyone else like to share? Yes, Robert.
Thank you, David. Every time I do this work, I get breakthroughs that I want to talk about for 10 minutes. So I'm going to try not to do that.
Okay.
That 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 doing the exercise, it occurred to me that in my standard meditation practice, to try to quiet that jabbering voice in my head, it's so distracting and so negative that I usually throw at the bone of a mantra saying, "It breathes me." That I'm sort of giving over the breathing process to something outside of me, that it's
Mm,
not my responsibility to breathe. I don't make it breathe. I am being breathed by it.
mm,
And this exercise demonstrated to me that I don't breathe it and it doesn't breathe me, but that the breathing with is a two. I love language because there's two meanings. With means I breathe together with that, and it also means it's a vehicle. I use that to breathe. It is the
mm,
process I use to stay alive.
mm.
So it's not exactly a choice. Not exactly. So the idea of breathing with in those two dimensions gave me the freedom to not have to say it breathes me or I breathe it or I'm not breathing right or I need to do something different or I need to pay attention in a different, all, none of that. I just
No.
need to be in that flow,
Yeah.
to
Great.
choose to be in that flow. and whatever comes along with that is just what's there. It's not
Mhm.
of great importance to me.
Okay.
Just so liberating because I
Thank-
understand that communication is a two-way street, or it's a scam, or it's a some kind of roadblock or misinterpretation, mistake. Because if there's not a two-way flow, there's no communication. If there's not a joining of the message getting across and the message coming back, yes, I understand that,
Mm.
then it's like it's a crapshoot. Did they understand? No, maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe partially. Did I say what I wanted to say? Maybe, maybe not. So I'm at the victim of my preconceptions, my trauma, my history, all of my story about what happened, not what's happening right now. And there's lots more I could say about that, but it was just very liberating. And thank you for the good partners that I had in my little breakout group.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Always love to hear from you there. Jen.
Yes, hi. Partly my own reflections and also what I heard from Veronica was helping me to realize that this, when you're asking the what is, helping us to reflect on what is, and then what the truth of it sounds like, in some ways it's a bit of a change in perspective, a broadening of perspective, right? Like it's asking what is right now, and then there's an invitation to just broaden that perspective a little bit further, to see a little bit more. It's not necessarily denying what is, but it's inviting more in. And I heard that from Veronica because it also spoke to me about, I started with I was noticing something that I was lacking or something that I was missing in my life. And in some ways, the truth of it is what I am lacking is actually what others are gaining, right? It's like me, it's instead of it's me lacking, it's me giving that thing out for others to enjoy. And so it's a broader perspective on the lacking of something. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels meaningful to me today.
Great. And it's in part why in our work we focus a lot on inquiring, about what this person is ready for now. So like when you go through a loss, a big loss, for example, all the grief is available from the first minute. We just can't feel it all because it's too much. And then the what is may only be, like you're saying, may only be, I can only accept or tolerate this much. And then the more you relax into it, or the more you kind of mature into holding a bigger, the more you can hold, right? The more you can feel, the more you can see. Um, and yeah. Yeah. So, Lenny's your hand's up, I think. Yes.
Okay, I was in the privilege to be in the same group with Jen and Marion
Okay.
and Hiva. And one of the things that with these further resonances that people are sharing comes up that was kind of a theme there is that in these transitions, we're not just letting go. This is hard to articulate. We're not just letting go of old assumptions and interpretations of what's going on, but we're also letting go of the person that we've been up to now in those situations. And at least for me, some of the automatic responses I've had, both in terms of interpreting, like with my kid, what's going on, what's needed, how can I help, it's also who I am in that situation that I have to let go of old things. And this exercise really reminded me, your third question of, what does the truth sound like right now? And I took that to mean if I can be in contact with what in Taoism we call inner truth and the creative, if I can just be with that moment, what is, allow it. This is a big piece of it. Allow it to really be digested and then receive the grace that's already there. the insight, the possibility, the help. And I don't know why that's hard to do. Maybe it's just we don't know how to do it till we start practicing. But this really helped me to say, okay, just go quiet, breathe, all that good meditative stuff, and listen for that voice that's telling me exactly what I need to do right now or not.
Mm.
What's mine to do, what's not mine to do.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well said, Lenny. Thank you. All right. So I just want to put up the slide just for a minute and get a set up for our second conversation. There we go. So this is I moved our quote to a different part of the session for today, but for those of you that are there for the first time, I'll just give you a minute to read this and explain what it means and why it's here for me anyways. So back in the day when I did more yoga, I'm not sure I could ever do this pose, but I could do somewhere close for an old white guy. Who played all kinds of other sports. But one of the things I loved about yoga was you can't think about the pose, otherwise you fall over. And so it reminded me a lot of this notion I've presented for all year long about this moment being our curriculum and inviting us into the present moment, like you were sharing, Lenny, and letting it be what it is and be present to us and breathe with it. And so it's part of what I was saying before about learning to ask ourselves, what is my environment showing me? What is it asking of me? What is this moment asking of me? What is my action saying about me? So I was sharing about with Karen on the break about my observations about now that I'm here in my new home in Amsterdam, just reflecting on and noticing what I chose to bring and what I didn't choose to bring, some of which surprised me. I said, who was packing these boxes? Various parts of Dave. Um, and different parts of David had different ideas about what to bring. And so I was curious to see kind of how that all unfolded at the end. And it really helped me to understand some things that are shifting in myself that I wasn't even aware were happening. And so the part of the what isness is the mystery of apparently I'm changing right now in ways I don't really quite understand yet. And then it's almost going back to some of what you were saying, Robert. It's like I'm almost being changed. It's that whole double meaning of with. I'm, sort of with myself on this journey, but there's also this withness I'm a part of, that I find just really fascinating. And so we have many, many choices to make about what we do with what is, how we feel about it, what we want to do about it, what it means to us. But for me, the invitation is when we come back to trusting ourselves and trusting the moment, even if we don't like it at all, we're much more present to the reality of it, which makes us much more attentive and attuned to what's actually going on, as opposed to lost in our head or wishing it were different. And I find it gives us much more to work with. And so I'm going to invite you to some small groups. And Karen, if we could just mix them up so people have a chance to hear some news stories and have a chance to, and we can do this for about 20 minutes. This one will be a bit briefer. And just have groups of 2 or 3. And then just going to put up the questions for you. So I'd like you just in one of our ID frames, just speak plainly to where you are now. Like, what are you noticing about yourself right now compared to where you were an hour ago? Is there any openings that you've sort of bumped into or discovered about where you might want to mature? And some of you have shared a bit about that already. And is there anything about that you want to bring into the new year or even into tomorrow? If that's better. So I'm just going to give you a chance to speak. And again, just uh, when we allow ourselves to be present to what is, I find that our language comes to us much more quickly than if we're trying to edit ourselves and position what we're saying. And part of this is as we trust ourselves, we trust our voice. So just see what speaking plainly looks like for you about where you are now compared to where you were an hour ago or even 5 minutes ago. And is there an opening there for some maturation for yourself? Okay. Are we all good, Karen?
We are all good, and I put the questions in the chat for everybody.
All right.
And you said 20 minutes, correct, David?
Please, yes. All
Okay, we're ready. Off you go.
right. Enjoy. There we go. Everybody's back now. We have a couple of announcements to make at the end, but I just wanted to give you a chance to breathe and see if there's anything that you'd like to share as we bring this session to a close. And with that, bring this year to a close. Hmm. Hmm.
That's quite a statement. Bring the year to a close.
Well, not quite yet, but for us, for the BCE, that's the final.
No, but it is even in this application. Yes.
Yeah,
Is there more BCE for the future?
there is.
Ah,
We'll share about that in just a minute, but I want to just make sure anybody who has something to say has the space to say that if they so choose. Hmm. Hmm. And if not, maybe you can show them the website, Karen, and then I'll make a couple of comments at the very end.
Yeah, I will. So what I wanted to do is even people who've been around for a while, and for the new folks, it's sometimes a little tricky to navigate something that makes sense to people who created it. But when you have a fresh eye on it, it takes a little time to disorient yourself. So I wanted to take a few minutes just to let you know where you can find all the BCE recordings for the year and where our community exists. So I'm going to share my screen and just talk you through that for just a moment. Here we go. Let me reduce this. So I got here by simply going into themomentinstitute.com and going into community. And under community, you can create your own personal account. That's assuming you don't already have an account. And if you do already have an account, then once you sign in, this is our online community. And so as you can see, the categories, the Moment Institute here have the forum, travel photos, meaning we sometimes meet up and meet each other or just want to share. And the events, that's where you can find all of the upcoming events. So if you wanted to click on what's next, you can find that out right there and all the links to it. And what I have open right now is the MIBCE community. So you can see the archived recordings and the slides right here. It's also a place that you can make comments on it. So just know that if you're just joining us and you say, oh, I would have loved to have heard all about trust and all the cycles that we've done and all the wonderful experiences we've had, they're all there and all the slides are right there. And just to continue that, you can see in my registration, I was part of the Narrative Coaching 24 experience and then the different links below that. So just wanted to give you a chance to peek at that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'll just say a couple of things about next year. So we will have BCEs. They'll be once a month as we've always had them. We're going to focus, our next year's theme is on maturity. That's something that I'm spending a lot of time on these days and getting more and more insights about. And so we'll kick off in January with our first session is what is maturity and how does one mature? I'm doing a talk for the IOC roundtable in LA virtually on Thursday, and we've already had I'm already in a really wonderful debate with the host about whether we learn more from things we've done well or things we don't do well. But we're going to talk a little bit about what maturity is and why I think it's so important right now, and I think will become increasingly important. And we'll spend the year asking ourselves a series of questions to help us understand maturity in general. We also have a retreat that's coming up in January. If you want to dive into this, specifically into the 5 maturities, that's will be a much deeper dive. These will be much more simple and more about some. So I'll just give you a teaser. So the January question is going to be, who are you? But the sub question is, and how do you know that? Yeah. And so we will be doing, we're going to sort of make it like not quite Zen koan like, but we're going to ask ourselves some really important questions to begin to think about. I think in this time when, we're all in some transition or another, sometimes many at the same time, there's a lot of things that are up in the air in the world that feel quite uncertain and challenging. And so being able to ask ourselves these bigger questions so we retain some sense of orientation, some sense of presence, some sense of motion, I think will be really dependent a lot on not our own like heroic maturation. I've got to mature myself, but actually maturing with others, being with others, finding ways to challenge each other, support each other. And so the BCs will be a chance like this, like we do every month, for you all to come together and just explore some things about our lives that feel important and finding ways that we can support each other on the journeys that we're actually on. So it's been wonderful. There's a lot of faces I've seen all year long, but also I enjoy the new ones that have come to join us. Really appreciate that. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the holiday season. Thank you, Karen, for another great year. Karen will be back next year as our wonderful host. And we will see you all hopefully in January.
And before we let him go, I just want to, because deadlines sometimes matter.
Oh, yeah.
We have December 12th as an important deadline. So David, do you want to talk about
Oh
that?
yeah, so we're having so our retreats, we're about 2/3 full of the retreat. We have some spots left, but we're having a little contest. So if you register by I think it's Thursday, you get to be have an option to go into a drawing for $500 rebate on the cost of your retreat. So 3 people are going to win that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And we would love to have you come and join us if you'd like to spend more time with us in this space.
And also if you're a current student or a previous student, you have a nice little $300 to
Off
share.
the cost of the retreat, and you also can share that coupon with your friends. If you
Yeah.
want to invite a friend.
So you should have already gotten an email about that
Yeah.
if you're already a
Yep.
current student.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Yep.
Thank you all. Until
Take
next
care,
time.
everybody.
Be well.
Happy December.
Mm.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adios, everyone.
Thanks for the hearts,
Happy
Mary.
holidays.
Happy holidays.